G'day, and I'm Matt from Auto One Browns Plains, and today I'm talking to you about dash cams. We're going to talk about how dash cams work and also how to choose the right dash cam. In another video we'll talk about how to install a dash cam. So to start off, what makes a dash cam different from another camera? Well, dash cameras like these are designed to be used in automotive use cases. They do this by having special features that are specific for automotive use. So things like the way that they manage power. You'll find that some units will have the ability to continue running when the car has been switched off. These units, they'll have a power management tool built into them, and they will continue to run until the car hits a certain, or the battery in the car hits a certain voltage, or a certain amount of time is reached. That way they still record after you turn the car off, but they manage the power usage from your car battery at the same time. Some of the more entry-level units like these, on my right hand side, your left hand side, they will just work off your accessory power. So once the car is turned off, they'll have like a capacitor or a battery, and they'll do a slow shutdown, and then monitoring from there, they'll have, in most cases, a park mode. So when it comes to park mode, there are a couple of different ways to look at park mode. Some manufacturers will do a time lapse where the camera takes an image every second, and then it'll stitch them all together, and that way you've got a bit of an idea of what's happening when you turn your car off. Other ones, they'll reserve a little bit of power, and if the car detects motion or is shaken, they'll record a small segment of time. That way you have a chance of capturing whoever interfered with that car. The other way of doing it is there are now power management systems that you can get for dash cameras. So manufacturers such as Thinkware and Blackview both have their own battery range, and then you can connect the car's electrical system to the battery, which then connects to the camera. This gives you a lot more recording time, and in a normal recording mode as opposed to the park mode I described before. So that's another one. If you want it to full-time record, there are ways to do that. You just need to calculate the usage of those batteries, and you might have your own dual battery setup as well, and you may be able to run the camera from there as well. But do remember, it will be draining from that battery. Being in a car, on a dash, right in the sun, cameras made for cars are made to handle the heat. So it's an important component, especially here in Australia, that the heat management of that camera is really good. And you'll find that the top manufacturers out there will do that quite well. You'll find that these dash cameras will do a loop record. So they'll record a 1, 2 or 3 minute segment usually, and it'll just loop over, and it'll just keep doing these little segments. You'll be able to piece these together in software afterwards if you wish. However, what happens is that once it reaches the extent of the storage that you've got in that device, it'll go back to the start and it'll start recording over those pieces. If there's an event, like the car's shaken or something like that, it'll protect that segment of time where that happened. And it'll even, in some use cases, the software will identify where there's been an incident, and you'll be able to find it a little bit quicker that way. So the software that comes with them, you'll notice that some of the newer cameras, they come out and they have like a Wi-Fi connection, and you'll be able to connect it to your phone app, and you'll be able to go in there and change all the settings, and also review the footage, save the footage, and all those sorts of things. So which is really handy, seeing as most of us spend a lot of our time on our phones these days. But there's also software on computers as well. And this is where features like the GPS feature on some of these units becomes handy, because you can overlay on a map where you were, how fast you were going, and you can see the imagery from that moment as well. So that's a powerful tool in itself. The other new feature that's starting to come out now is LTE connections. So you at the moment 4G connections, but in future you imagine it will go on to 5G and so on, and then connecting to a cloud service. So say for example, if you have this sort of service, you can have your camera all the time saving that footage onto the cloud, and you can remotely, so it could be in your child's car or something like this, or maybe you manage a fleet or something, and then you can remotely see what's going on in real time. This is very effective at actually tracking vehicles as well, so it's got a dual purpose. Now, how do you choose the right one? What one suits you? Well, there's a range of prices. You can get ones around the $100 mark here, and then there are units over $1,000. Usually those units will be multiple cameras. They'll have all of the features, and they might come with a larger memory card as well. Now, things to look out for is the video resolution. So if you're starting with a video resolution of 1080p, you're usually pretty well covered. You do get units out there that will have 720p, and while they do serve their purpose, they do have a place in the market. We do get feedback from customers saying that they can't identify number plate registration numbers with that resolution. So you want to go a slightly higher resolution so that you can see number plates on cars, so you can identify the perpetrator of the crime, right? So that's something to consider. Video resolutions, they're going up to 4K, and then usually when you get a 2-channel, so when I talk 2-channel, I'm saying a front camera and a rear camera, usually the front camera has a higher resolution than the rear camera. Something to bear in mind when you're looking for these cameras. The next one is the field of view. So how much does the camera see? So is it going to be like a tunnel vision, or is it going to be quite wide? There are pros and cons to either one, but you'll notice that the top brands will stick between about 120 degrees of field of view up to about 150, 155 degrees field of view. What you might find with some other cameras that go beyond that is a bit of a fisheye effect, and it might start distorting the image. But you want that wider field of view so that you can see more, you can see what the car and maybe the lane to the right or the left can see. The other one is low light performance. So you want to pay attention to what camera sensor the manufacturers use, and whether it's a good quality one or not. And you'll notice that the newer they are, they tend to go through progressions of different sensors that have better abilities to capture in low light. There are other things out there such as infrared to improve low light performance. Infrared is something that's used probably best for like an in-cabin vision. So say for example, if you're a rideshare driver and you want a camera inside the cabin so you can see what the passengers are doing, that's a great example of where you would want an infrared camera. Park mode, I mentioned park mode before. So do you want it to continually record? Do you want to consider doing a battery setup as well, so it can full-time record once you turn the car off? Or are you happy with the park modes in these cameras, where if they get shaken they'll capture a moment in time, or the time-lapse feature? So you want to look at those and consider if they're right for you. The frame rate's something that's come along in recent years, so that's one to look out for. You probably see a lot of cameras around the 30 frames per second, which is good. However, starting to get better quality cameras coming out with 60 frames per second, and what this does is that when you're reviewing the footage, it looks smoother, but if you want to slow it down, it still looks smooth. You're getting a lot of frames, so it's easier to pick out usually number plates, so that's what we're looking for. The other one is the GPS feature. So some people might not want a GPS feature and knowing how fast they're going or where they were, but some people do, and you know, it might be something that adds to your story about, hey, I was doing the speed limit, or I was in this location when this incident happened, particularly if you're in an area that you're not familiar with. The Wi-Fi, so the Wi-Fi connection, you probably notice a lot of people addicted to their phones, and it's just an easy one. You don't need to take the memory card to your computer to play around with it. You can be sitting at your seat and you can have a look at the footage, download it, and it's just very quick and easy to use when you've got a unit with like a Wi-Fi sort of connection. So that's handy. LTE, do you want it to record and send to the cloud or give you remote access to it, so getting a 4G card in there? Beware that these do exist, but you've got to buy a 4G card and you've got to pay for whatever that card might cost. The cloud service, so saving to the cloud rather than onto the device itself. As these cameras get better and better, their quality is improving, the frame rate's improving, so they really tie up a lot of memory. So the cloud service is something that you might want to consider as well, and be aware that you will be charged by these companies for the cloud service as well. And the other one's budget. You've got a wide range. I think I've already touched on it, but you know, it's sometimes better to have something than nothing. So you just start with something that's priced a little bit more competitively, or you want to protect your love and joy, your family, and money is no object, and you're ready for whatever the best is, or somewhere in between. So myself, I'm somewhere in between. I've got a 2-channel camera at 1080p, 30 frames, and for me, I never really check it, but I know it's a solid unit, and I know that when I do check it, it's going to be there and it's going to be recording. Other things to consider, you might want to consider the SD card that you choose to go with it. A lot of these cameras will come with an SD card in them, but some of them, like this Uniden, don't, so you've got to add an SD card to it. SD cards are quite sensitive because you're writing and deleting and rewriting at such a high level that it puts a lot of pressure on these SD cards, and you can almost consider them like a consumable, that after a year or two that you might need to replace these SD cards. So read the manual, make sure that you get an SD card that is suitable for that unit, that meets the specs, so that you don't reach dramas and find out that it hasn't been recording. So that's an important one. These units are getting better and better at managing the data, but in the early days that was an issue. So guys, Matt here at Auto One Browns Plains. We have a wide range of dash cameras here, and we also have a fitting service. Thank you.